Yeah, right there lads, ladies, fellow cavaliers and noobs, to my basics on how to be a cavalier in the Battlefield 1 beta. And just a quick disclaimer, I'm in no shape or form a pro at using the horses. I say I die plenty of times just like anybody else, but I do get some pretty decent kill streaks on the horses implementing some of these tactics that I'm going to show you guys today. So with that all being said, I'm going to crack on with the video and show you guys some tips that have helped me get a lot better with the cavaliers and the horses in Battlefield 1 beta. So to get one of the basics out of the way, when you spawn on a horse, you are going to be spawning as a cavalier class. You are not going to spawn as a support, or you're not going to spawn as an assault or sniper, or whatever class you think you're going to spawn as. You're going to spawn as a separate class. Same with the engineers for the tanks and the same with the pilots for the aeroplane. So what do you get as a default cavalier class? Well, first off you get a lever action Russian rifle, I believe it is. Well, it's a lever action anyway. You get the med packs and you get the ammo packs. And I don't know how true it is or not, but I have sensed it in the game that I am a little bit tougher in terms of taking damage, but some people have said, and I've seen on a few different multiple videos, that the cavaliers do get a little bit extra health. I don't know how true it is, but I say if anything we'll have to see what Simfix says when the game does release and they can run their whatever they do like in terms of finding out numbers and graphs and stuff. And you also have access to the saber sword as a default melee weapon. And the class comes with 2 anti-tank grenades by default. And lastly, the class comes with a 1911 pistol as backup. Alternatively, you can jump on a horse whenever, like if someone leaves it lying around the battlefield, but you'll always use the cavalry equipment when you're on the horse. But as soon as you jump off the horse, you'll go back to the class that you chose, whether that being support, sniper, etc, etc. But if you get off the horse having spawned on the horse, you'll be using the cavalry class instead. Now that we've covered the basic equipment that comes with the class, let's speak about how you even get on a horse. And one of the easiest ways you can get a horse is by spawning on the 2 that can spawn at your deployment, or you can get one from Echo if you're on that objective. Or by all means you can grab an enemy one if they've abandoned it. And to get on and off the horse is the X button. I'll say most Battlefielders will probably know that anyway, but I'll say I just got to cover it just in case. Now I'm going to show you some tips and tactics that have helped me be as effective as possible with the cavalry class. So my tip number 1 is, and it sounds pretty basic, but most people I've seen in the beta do it all the time, do not run head on first to infantry, especially if they're looking at you. Don't get me wrong, you're fast as fuck, they ain't going to be able to have an easy shot on you. But if you're running straight onto a person who have full knowledge that you're coming at them, they're going to take pop shots at you, and 9 times out of 10 they'll kill you. If you get lucky, by all means kill them, but for the most part you want to avoid frontal attacks. Just how the cavalry charges got cut down in the Great War, I say you do not want to go front on with a machine gunner. So if frontal attacks are out of the equation, what else can you do? The best way to use the horses in terms of attacking people is use the flanks. Use your speed to your advantage. Do not take them on frontally. Flank around the side, make sure they don't see you, and then when you get close enough, pull out your blade, slash them, or if you can at a distance, take pop shots at them with your rifle. And you'll be surprised how effective it is when you're attacking from the sides and the angles that they don't realise you're coming from. And especially around the sand dunes of Echo, Delta and Bravo, the amount of times I've cut down infantry running from objective to objective is unreal. And a tip with using a saber blade, you'll always slash on the right hand side of your player. I don't know if there's ever a button that's going to be implemented in the full game to be able to switch it from the left side or the right side, but I say in terms of the beta, you'll always slash on the right hand side. So if you're going to go for a saber attack, make sure you've always got them on your right hand side, because if you got them on your left, you're going to do nothing, you're just going to ride right past them. Or you can also road kill him with the horse, but you have to be dead straight. And I don't know why there seems to be a clipping issue or hitbox issue or something, and sometimes, most of the time you always seem to miss them. Not all the time, but I'd say 7 out of 10 times I always seem to miss them when it comes to road killing with the horse. And another thing to keep in mind in regarding using the saber sword, I say if they go prone, that for some reason you can't seem to swing low enough to get them. So if there's someone prone and they're persistently prone, they're not getting up, try and road kill them with the horse. And another thing to keep in mind is that your horse health and your player health are completely separate. But if you do take damage, you can hide away and your health does regenerate, and so does your horses. And tip number 2, and this is a little bit risky, but I say it is a great reward and you do feel like a badass when you pull it off. Don't be afraid to use the sniper rifle at distance. Well, I say sniper rifle, but it does act like a sniper rifle, because if you're watching on the screen now, the reticle for the rifle is so tiny. There has been multiple occasions where I've been coming across snipers out in the distance and camping on the mountains. I don't know why the fuck they're camping in the mountains for, it's not like they're being effective, but I say the amount of times I've seen snipers out in the distance and I've took pop shots at them and I've actually killed them from like 100 meters, 200 meters. So don't feel that just because you're on a horse you ain't going to be effective at range. It's a lot more difficult, I ain't going to lie. I say you need to have a good aim, but if you can line up your shots, you can be a really effective at distance. And tip number 3, don't forget that you got health packs and ammo packs on your guy. If you ever run out of ammo, quickly jump off, give yourself some ammo. If you need some health and you're in a safe place, quickly jump off, give yourself some health. Alternatively, you can also drop them whilst riding. So if there's a teammate who needs some health or some ammo or something, quickly ride by, drop them some ammo. I can't remember what specific D-pad buttons give which at, but if you press left or right on the D-pads, or whatever it is on PC, I say you'll be giving out ammo or health to your teammates. And it's helped a few times when I've spawned on my team and I say none of them are running support and they're requesting ammo, I'll quickly just drop some ammo for them as I ride past. So just because you're on a horse doesn't mean you can't help out your team with health or ammo. Helps give you points and helps your team out. And now some of you will probably be asking, well, how do I PTFO with a horse? Well, there's a few difficulties when it comes to that. You do not want to try and capture Charlie. That objective is horrible to try and capture. It's so close quarters and it's so horrible for horses because there's so many obstacles that are going to stop you and force your horse to stop. Not saying that it's impossible, but the Charlie objective is probably one of the worst objectives to try and capture in the horse. So which objectives are you relegated to? Well, Echo's a no-brainer because it's out in the distance and I say not many people seem to go to that objective. Golf's a good one. Bravo and Alpha's a decent one. Bravo's a little bit tight though, so you have to be careful with that one. Charlie, that's probably a no-go, but it is possible, but you just need to be really fucking careful. Delta you can as well, but just try to stay away from that building that's there. Unless the building's blown out, of course, then obviously you're good to go. Foxtrot and Golf are good as well, but Foxtrot's a bit tight because it's so narrow. You just have to be careful. Especially if they start spawning around you, you need to be really careful in regards to Foxtrot. And another simple tip with the horses, always try to stay mobile. As soon as you stand still, you start moving slowly, you're making yourself an easy target for machine gunners, for DMRs, for snipers, for anyone with a gun basically. So don't give them an easy target, always try to stay on the move. You don't need to obviously be going full gallop, but always try to stay mobile and active. Now this isn't really a tip, but more common sense, don't try and engage tanks. There is absolutely jack shit you can do against a tank. Yes, you do have the 2 anti-tank grenades. They can actually do some damage if you're in coordination with a teammate or a few squad mates around and they've all got like the AT guns or they've got the tank Cavalry or whatnot. But you as a lone Cavalier, you can't do much damage against a tank. The most you could probably do is about say 30 or 40 damage to the tank if you get some good hits. But I say the 2 anti-tank grenades ain't going to be enough to take out a tank. You need to have some work or coordination with your teammates. But if you are working in coordination with your teammates, you can be a great distraction as they're trying to come in, chuck some grenades or chuck some C4. Well, I say dynamite really. But I say you can be a great distraction while the tank's trying to kill you. I say they can sneak in, get some dynamite off and kill the tank. And tip number 4, I say it sounds a bit saft, but I say if you're coming into a frontal attack, which you're probably best trying to avoid, but if it does happen and you have to engage the enemy, I say try and serpentine. It sounds silly, I say when you're in a sniper battle and whatnot and they get the upper hand, I say you obviously serpentine, try and avoid the bullets. Same principle when you're on a horse, you want to try and avoid them bullets, make yourself a harder target as possible, and then as soon as you get close, try and start lining yourself up. I don't know what specific range is, but I say when you get like within a few feet of them, try and line yourself up for that swipe. Also regarding the rifle on the horse, I don't know why, I don't know if it's a bug or something, but it doesn't matter how many bullets you've used out the gun, your guy will always go for the lung animation, and it feels like an age, I don't know why, but during that reload phase you cannot switch your weapon or do anything. You can obviously gallop and ride away and stuff, but in regards to changing your weapon, pulling out your sword or trying to shoot, in that reload animation you're just stuck. So try to be careful when you're doing the reload animation. Try to make sure you're out of the way or out of the open, or just be careful when you try to do that reload. Now some of you might be asking, how do I go against another Cavalier? Well, the 2 viable options you got really is either trying to take them out at a distance, but that's extremely difficult, especially if they're going at full gallop. It's going to be really hard to get them shots off. Not impossible, you can do it, but you have to be really good aim. The most easiest option is to try and get him with the saber, but it's also pretty difficult because you have to swing on your right side, they have to swing on their right side, so if they've got their sword out at the same time as well, most of the time you'll end up trading. Which is quite funny to be fair, when you die and they die and you just see both horses just galloping away like, what's going on here? And then they just come to a stop. But when it comes to cavalry fights, you just need to be the quicker on the sword. Also, another thing to keep in mind is you can actually saber people off of the sides of the jeep. Can't do anything to the light armoured ones other than chuck anti-tank grenades, which to be fair, they're quite effective against them. But if you see any open top jeeps, you can actually slice them off the sides, but you have to go on the side that they're on. So if they're on the driver's side, you have to go on the left. If they're on the gunner, you have to try and attack from the back, and obviously with the passenger, you have to sweep from the other side. Or alternatively, if you've got a good enough shot, you can just shoot them out of it. So with that all being said, those are the tips and tactics I implement in the beta to try and be as effective as possible with the cavalry class. And that is the end of the video, lads. I say I hope you enjoyed it and listening to me rant and talk about tips and tactics in regarding the cavalry class and the horses. And I hope you guys have learned something new with these tips and tactics. I say I'm not a pro by all means, but I say I hope some of these tactics help you guys out. And I hope you're all having a Bostin day and enjoying the Battlefield 1 beta. I say I'll catch you all lot in the next one. Ta-ra, bit. Ta-ra, ta-ra, ta-ra.